Welcome back, everybody. So here we are with part 2 of issue 14, and I don't know if we'll get it all done in this issue or this episode or not, but we're going to try. We're going to see what we can accomplish. So this is a part that I've been kind of semi-dreading because I just don't know how well it's going to go, and I'm afraid that once I glue something down, I'm going to have a hard time getting it back up. So that's a bit of a fear on my part, but we'll see what we can do to alleviate that. So my favorite little tape and one of my micro brushes, and let's see how this will go. So we're going to start off, I think I was going to start off with one of these end pieces, but let's start off with this piece. So let's see. I'm wondering if I can't glue this down, like start the glue here, and then start the bending after it's good and dry. I'll hold it in place, bend it, and then I'll just cut it where I want it. Does that make sense? Let's go ahead and try that. Let's see what happens. You only live once, right? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It'll fall apart. It's the Falcon, after all. Okay, so here's the big problem. Gluing my finger to this thing. Okay, so we got to remember to aim in quite a bit. Okay, so I got a fair amount of glue on there. So you can see how far in I'm aiming. And that should allow, and I'm just going to give this a little bit of time to dry, but that should allow me to bend this over. And then, maybe put a spot of glue on the end here, bend it over, hold it in place there, and then we'll move on with cutting it and all that kind of stuff. So another problem is this is not going to be square, so maybe I'll have to square that off with the knife. Probably have to get a new blade. This blade feels really dull, and I don't want that at all. So let's see about getting a new blade. So I needed a way to organize my stuff without having too many things out on my little workspace here. So I got these little containers to put stuff in. So I've got one container. They're matching containers. They actually connect together. But I have one container for tools, and then one container for kind of parts and whatnot, like especially any of the extra parts. So it's got all the rods and that kind of stuff in it. And this gives me something. Which one did I just take off? Got to be that one. That's the old one. Now I had a container here that had all of the old pieces in it, but I'm not seeing it now. I don't know what I did with it. Well, I'll set this up here for now. I'm sure it's here someplace. Could be underneath a paper towel or something. So we'll find it. So let's get a nice sharp blade. Anytime you're doing anything like this, other than, very basic cutting, you should always have a sharp blade. That's advice I've seen many times. Like I said, I read the model railroad magazines, and that's the advice they always give. And my experience thus far would be the same. So there we go. We got our nice parallel. Cut that parallel to the bottom. And now we can kind of come in here, and I'm just going to put a drop of glue here. Let's go ahead and bend this around to where we want it to be. And then we'll hold it in place. Again, hopefully not gluing our finger down. There we go. I'm liking how that's coming out so far. We're getting a curve just the way we want it. Going slightly over the edge. So that way, we go slightly over the edge there. So we kind of hide any rough parts of the edge. There we go. We're just going to cut this part off straight, just like we did before. Ta-da! There's one piece. Alright. Give that a second or two. Now you can see this one's obviously a bit wider than the other one. So they weren't exactly shaped properly to begin with, but what do you expect for free? Alright. This last piece, we'll go ahead and use this long one because I want to make sure. Actually, the one I just cut should work, but we'll use this long one because look, that edge is already perfect anyway. Alright, get the last of this super glue in here. There's going to be some cleaning up just of the super glue. Alright. Got glue on my thumb. I nearly glued it to my mat here. Okay. I'm going to have a bunch of time just doing this. Holy crap. There we go. All right. I'm going to take a break for a little bit, and when we come back, I'll be trying to map this part out and see how that goes. We'll try to get that into this episode as well. I need to figure out how much time this episode's been, and for some reason my camera is sliding out of its perch. I don't like that. So hopefully you guys saw that whole thing. But there you go. I'm not like super happy with it, but I'm not upset about it either. It could have been better, but something I've never done before, so I'm okay with that. And I think by the time you paint it and all that kind of stuff, it's not gonna stand out that much, I don't think. And if it does, hey, it's the Falcon. This part obviously was added at some point. For some reason Han did it. He probably made it as an access to the cabling or something because it wasn't this way in A New Hope. So he added that after the fact for a reason. And, you know, who says he would have done a, you know, a clean, wonderful job. So, all right, I'll see you after I come back. Okay, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to show that I pulled this out. I went ahead and put some putty in here. I'll have to clean that up and then hand paint it, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. So I'll take care of that. What I wanted to show now is I have this piece here. And this is going to be the silver pipe that goes right along here. So it's going to go right along this spot right here. Okay, and so one of the things I wanted to do was wanted to drill a hole right where I was going to put it. So that way I can kind of sink it down. It doesn't have to go all the way through. I just want to kind of recess a little bit, make sure it looks like it's going through the floor. Plus, it gives it another spot to secure to, right? So, I don't know if my pin vise will go large enough to accept this. I'm going to guess with no. I mean, I could probably force this in there, but then I probably won't get the top on. So, we won't be able to use a pin vise, and I somewhat anticipated that, so give me 1 second. So I somewhat anticipated that, so I brought a drill, my first power tool while working on this. And, alright. So like I said, we're not going to need a lot of torque, a lot drilled out, just enough to give it a spot to set. So, ideally I'd have it right next to the edge. I want to start slow. I said ideally it'd be right next to the edge, so that way, you know, it'd kind of blend into the wall, but it doesn't have to. That's pretty close. I mean, I can see light through there. So let's see how this fits. I don't know if this is the right size I'm going to need or not. Of course, this has also got to get painted, and it fits in without too much issue. So the reason why I wanted to drill that now is I need to figure out the height that I'm going to put this in at. So let's go ahead and place our wall in place here. There we go. Alright, so it's going to go like this. This will go in here. Alright. Kind of turn it that way. And I'm just going to stand it straight up, or straight up as I can get it. And I'm just going to clip it right at the top. There we go. Now, I'll just need to clean this edge up a little bit, which is simple enough. I've already got some sandpaper here. So we'll just clean this end up. I'll throw some primer on this so that way it can get painted as well. So it doesn't need a lot, just a touch. And I'll get this painted. So we'll have that going for us. This can be used for something else. I also cut, that's not it. Where's the other two pieces? Oh, they're getting primed. So I cut this pipe. If you recall, this is one of these pipes here. So I cut this a little less than, or a little more than in half. And so what I did was I just kind of set it down here just to check for height. The one that I cut is a tad bit longer. I wanted to make sure that you couldn't see the top there. And through this hole, you want to give the illusion that it's there. And then this one will go somewhere, not this one, but the other one that I cut will go somewhere over on this side as well. So we have that going for us. So that's where I'm at the moment. You can see the putty that I put on the back of this. So I put some putty here to try to close off so you couldn't see light through the bottom there. That was a problem before, you could see light, and that pretty much took care of it. You can't see light at all through this seam, which is great. I didn't want to be able to see light through there, and so that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and continue forward. I'm going to go ahead and sand this up, get this ready to go so we can mount that back in there. Once that's mounted, painted and mounted, then that wall will be completely done, and I need to try to figure out what other details I'm going to put on this, but I think in the meantime, I'm going to try to work out how I'm going to do this lattice piece here. It should be fairly simple, I think, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to kind of mess around with that a little bit, and if I come up with something that I think is going to work, I will let you know. Okay. Catch you then. Okay, here we are. So after a few little attempts and looking at things and whatnot, I think my best bet is to glue this in place and then start putting the lattice work in. So what I'm going to do for lattice work is I'm going to use this smaller, the smaller stuff, the stuff that I put around here, and that way the image shows that there's a pipe or a hose or something that goes back behind. So that will give me a little bit of clearance back there to do that, and something to grip it all onto. So I'm probably going to cut the pieces about that size, which is pretty close to 1/8 of an inch. If we put it down here on our mat, it's essentially 1/8 of an inch. It's on the inside of this line and the outside of that line. So the reason why I take note of that is because I'm going to have to cut several of these. So let me show you the image again real quick. It's right here, and that'll give you an idea of what that's going to look like. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and put a drop of glue in here and get this thing started, and we'll see how this goes. Not very well. If I was gluing my finger to this thing, I'm not doing anything. Okay. All right. Hopefully that's glued down. And yeah, so that must be glued down because before this was kind of popping up. So now what I can do is we'll put another drop of glue. Did not stay down. Try this again. All right, let's try this again. There we go. Hopefully that'll hold this time. I think I got a little bit more glue on the surface there. The problem will be when I try to lift this up so I can get glue back behind here, I'm going to run into a bit of an issue. All right, so I'm going to try to hold this down with this finger here, this one here, and we'll push this up out of the way. There we go, and we can get some glue back behind here. And let's go ahead and get this seated down the way we want it. Well, there we go. All right, so there's that. Now I'm going to come in. I think I'm going to come in with some of this stuff. And if you recall, this is some pretty strong stuff, and we're just going to put a little dab on here, let it wick in, and this actually bonds it by melting it. So I think this will be a good idea. If not, I always thought it should have been, right? Okay, there is that. So the reason why I went ahead and glued this in place first is because I can't glue these pieces on and then stick it in there because I have to get this angle. Helps if I put it. Can't glue these on and put these in place first because I have to get this angle correct. So in order to do that, I need to make sure that I have everything in place. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put some glue right here. And then we'll stick this piece basically right up against it. Maybe. Boy, this is some fiddly stuff. As you guys want to watch another Millennium Falcon build, if you're interested, somebody that does a little bit different, there's a guy named Chris Falcon, and he does all kinds of models. He's pretty entertaining. He did a bit of custom stuff, and he's even done like he's currently working on the X-Wing by DeAgostini. I think all of the models that he's done are the DeAgostini models. I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to take a little bit of this bonding and put that in there because I'm not sold on how secure that is. So see, even when I did that, it kind of pushed it out. So not too sold on that. There we go. It's a little bit better. So anyway, he's doing the Millennium Falcon, or he did the Millennium Falcon, and he's currently doing the X-Wing. The X-Wing is massive. It is not to the same scale as the Millennium Falcon. I don't know what scale it's at, but it's quite large. So if you're interested, go check his stuff out. I'll put a link in the description, just by chance. So there is the first part. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut some of these, and I'm going to have to keep these angles perpendicular to this piece and go every so often. And this is going to be slow and methodical to get all this. And then from the image, this middle section is fairly open. And then there's the smaller sections. I'm going to go with the attitude that the middle section is the only section like that. So we're going to have to kind of go with that process. Once I get all of these ribs in, then I'll be able to come back in with a piece of this and cut it to length and do it on the outside. Now that's going to be even more tricky, I think, but we'll see how this goes. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting some of these and getting ready to glue them in. I'll probably do some off camera because it's going to be tedious. I'll probably be fighting it. So I'll come back when I have a good portion of them done. Well, we're back, and I've got all these pieces cut out, and I'm going to go ahead and get those put on now. What I'll probably do is I'm either going to fast forward this whole process so that way you can still see me do it, but you don't have to watch in slow motion, or I'll just skip ahead to when I get to the end. So you'll at very least get to see part of it going in. So let's just see how this goes. So the first part is going to be the tricky part, just being able to pick this thing up and holding it in a way that will allow me to stick it to this and hold it steady enough. Right, so let's see here. I'm going to try to go perpendicular to this. There's one. Okay, I'm gonna put on my other glasses because I'm old and having these things be blurry is not very much fun. So there's one more to go. Okay, I don't know if this is going to do any good or not, but I'm going to try it anyway because these things are very tenuous. They're not holding on by much. And I want to try to lock them in if I can. And I think that when I put the other piece on, I'm going to try to hold it down and then use this to lock it in place. So, well, that was easily the hardest thing I've ever done. The last thing I need to do, I'm going to leave this part open. The last thing I'm going to need to do after I get this outside piece on is I'm going to cut a piece that goes in there that fills that gap. So I'll do that after, like I said, this outside piece is on. The other thing that I need to do is I'm going to take a piece of this and see about bending it around to fill that hole, fill the gap, and I'll just have to see if I can find something with the right. My thought is find something with the correct radius, and so this, for instance, heat this up and let it kind of droop around, or heat it up and then like hold it up to where this is putting pressure on it. I don't think this is the correct radius. No, maybe a soda can or something like that. I don't know. I'll try to figure that out and whatnot. But before I move too far, I need to get the stress level down because that was very stressful and annoying. It did not come out as neat and clean as I had hoped, but it's in place. And so I think that once it's all in place, it'll look okay from a distance at the very least. So um, there you go. Pretty rough. Not something I would recommend unless you have very steady hands and all that kind of stuff, because maybe if I roughed up this material here first, it would have stuck a little easier, but just took so long for the super glue to stick, and then because I was squeezing so hard with this, anytime I pick these things up with these, they tend to kind of want to bite in, and I don't even know where that little piece went, but tend to want to kind of bite in. Like I can, when I was trying to move these things around, like they were constantly getting, when I was cutting them originally, they were constantly getting stuck to these tweezers because of the pressure and whatnot, so they'll deform a little bit. But there you go. Looks like a big eyelash. All right. I'm going to call it good for this video. That's going to be more than enough content, I'm sure. And this was 25 minutes, and I'm going to fast forward it quite a bit, so, or cut out the middle, whatever. But then we'll come back. When we come back, we'll be in the next video. We'll put the outside part on. I'll have already figured out how to bend the pipe to go in here, and we'll get that on, and we'll start working on the back wall. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Hope you're enjoying. May the force be with you always.